So we have Bree, Matt, Jen, and myself. Here, we do have a flag.
Yes.
I'm looking for a flag. So I guess we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, which is over here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do we have any agenda adjustments?
I have none.
I don't think I have any. We've got our executive session added. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Public comment. Yeah. Hi, Josh. Would you like to say anything?
I'm here to listen.
Okay.
I picked up some copies of the budget. Is there an agenda
Yes, there's one over
Package.
here. I can.
or all that good stuff?
You asked about speaking today on the phone to me. This is the opportunity.
This is the opportunity. Angela,
Hi, Peter.
how are you?
Okay, how are you?
So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Peter Davey. This is my wife, Carolyn. I'm here because I have spent a fair amount of time trying to analyze the numbers for the town budget, including the school budget. And I'm concerned because I think we're going into a meeting tomorrow morning with tension very high for all the wrong reasons. I think there's been a lot of information tossed around, some of which hasn't been accurate, some of which has, people feeling pressured, threatened, yada, yada, yada. So I've tried to look at this from the point of view of not what do you cut from the school budget, but what do we do about the future of Nobleboro and a tax situation that is becoming unsustainable. So I'm here to talk about the school budget with you, to look for ways to move to the future, to start getting public involvement in how we address what's an ongoing problem, and what if we don't address now, 15 or 20 years from now, is going to be the downfall of Nobleboro as we know it. So that's why I'm here.
Thanks for coming. Do you have any specific questions about the budget that we can?
I'm not inclined to say we need to do this or we need to do that. There are too many people who will do that who may or may not be in the know. I don't consider myself in the know. I guess the biggest question that I would ask is, are we looking at the Nobleboro School to make it the best school we can, or the best school we can currently afford to make it? And whether that raises the question about whether there are certain programs that are being budgeted that may not be at the right point in time for the school. And I'm not going to say which ones, because quite frankly, I don't know enough about them.
Okay.
But when I talk to people and I look at the budget breakdown, and I see the same thing in the town budget. Are we doing what's in the best interest of Nobleboro? Are we focused on the right issues?
Okay, thank you. I think that we look at it for both. You know, we're looking at best possible that we can provide both within the tax base and, you know, programming for the kids. This is, I believe, what all of us keep in mind as we work on this. But okay, so.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Quickly? When I hear you say unsustainable, and when I hear you say what you just said, can you talk about
Elaborate?
unsustainable a little bit more?
Sure. So we have a wide diversity of residents in terms of income, children, retirements, etc. We talk about making Nobleboro a town where people come and stay and retire in their homes. Okay, we talk about attracting new people to Nobleboro. What we see happening right now is an affordability issue on housing for both the young and the old. And I'm talking about purchasing of housing. There are ordinances that are actually being addressed in the town warrant toward that goal. We see a tax structure that to me is becoming unsustainable. How do I define it? We have a home in Nobleboro. We have owned property here for 23 years. We renovated in 2009. The taxes on our home based on the current budget will go up almost $1,000. We're just under 11,000 now. When you take a look at that and you look at what's going to happen to people who have been in their homes a very long time, many of whom it's a family generational home that had a very, very low valuation. There's going to be a revaluation. It's actually going on now. We have people who are going to get slaughtered. And when you look at that and you look at what's happening with the price of homes, you have to say to yourself, how can we keep our elderly residents in their homes and how can we attract new families when we're literally pricing ourselves out of the market? And if you look at the amount that the taxes have gone up over the last several years, it's not sustainable. If inflation is running 3%, taxes can't be going up 5, 8, 10%. Same is true for the budget, for the town and for the schools. It's just a formula that doesn't work. So what are we going to do about that? And I'm not saying the answer is cut, cut, cut. I don't believe that's the answer. I believe there's measured growth that has to occur. There's measured growth that can occur to improve, but there also have to be more strategic looks at the town, such as there's no commercial in town, none. And what that does to a tax base. We come from a school district in Pennsylvania, Council Rock, which everybody knows nationally, where our taxes were through the roof, not a single commercial establishment in the town. So the homeowners bore the brunt of a very fine school system. We can't see Nobleboro going that way. It can't happen here. It's a totally different population and tax base. And I'm worried about it. And I don't know that the town is looking at it enough thoroughly. I don't see a group of people getting together and saying, what are we going to do? As opposed to yay or nay.
Okay, thanks for clarifying what you meant by sustainable.
Yeah, if I could just, did you have something to say? Go.
Go ahead.
Let's go, Carol.
You guys bring
Yeah.
So my question or comment is actually just about the school budget. I grew up in public schools. I went to 7 different public schools by 7th grade. And every single one of them, you had a principal, maybe an assistant principal, a couple of secretaries, a full-time school nurse, and a janitor, and then a classroom teacher. And now you look at the budget for non-instructional staff, and it's just exploded. And I personally don't think we pay our teachers enough. And I know it's heresy, but I really don't. And we're not covering them in retirement. But instead of taking care of the people that are with our kids all the time, we have this explosion in all these other admin costs. And it just, to me, and I know you all don't necessarily have the authority or ability to hold and I don't understand all of it, but instead of in each school running all their own admin, like where I came from, we had county schools, so you didn't have to have all of that, redundancy in admin. And I just would encourage you to explore ways to cut some of the administrative costs so we can keep the instruction.
Mind if I answer back?
Oh, that's okay.
Sure.
So, with that, I will say, if you actually ask the teachers, yeah, they'd rather get paid what they are paid and have the extra help other than try. So I will, what's the right way to put it? When you have 1 or 2 children that are a little hard to handle, a teacher to take care of that child that's a little rough has to shut down their class to deal with that. Therefore, now you have 20 kids that aren't learning a thing. But if we have the extra support staff, they can help manage those children that need a little bit extra. And the teacher can keep teaching 17 of those 20 kids. But without that extra support staff, the actual grades on everybody go down because there's actually less time in the day to teach a child. So the support staff, and I'm the couple of the teachers that would always be here aren't here. And they would
They're usually here.
have piped up and said, yeah, no, we're good. We're where we are. So I really, and actually, I think if you look at the support staff by budget standards, I don't think that's a huge expense on our end. But I really think I have told a couple people in town, make an appointment at the school. Just stand in the back corner and watch what goes on during the day in the lower classrooms and stuff. And I think it will come to light why we have who we have.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about in the classroom.
No, but I think there's
My
only,
kids also went to public
how many
school.
secretaries are there? Just one?
One,
There's only one secretary.
yeah.
There's one secretary, one full-time nurse, and that's it.
So some of the other things that are in that category, the student and staff support, we've got our guidance counselors in there, the nurses in there.
Okay.
The library ed tech is in there, and technology ed tech is in there. So those are positions that are quite critical. I mean, personally, they could, in my opinion, go under, the teachers, except for they're not actually like running a classroom.
Right.
Which is why they're in that category. So all of those are part of what is bringing that number up. Just
Okay.
to help give you some of that breakdown of what's actually in that category. That help a little? Okay.
I mean, the classroom aides totally.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
not what you meant. Gotcha. Okay, I thought that's the
yeah,
issue. Sorry.
Yeah. So we actually only have one custodian right now.
Right. We sub it out.
We do.
You have one nurse, one admin assistant and
Yep.
one principal.
Yeah, we don't have an assistant.
only have one.
principal.
We actually, if
Yeah.
we could find another
Yeah.
janitor, night janitor, we would save money, but we
Yeah.
can't. We've
We
been
can't.
looking for over a year now.
Yeah.
Just can't find one.
Yeah, we're definitely losing money by.
Yeah.
And we are losing money
Yeah.
by contracting,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
it still has to be. But
Done.
yeah, so if you know anybody that wants.
Send them our way, please.
We're trying.
Josh.
So you heard me, I've sat where they're sitting.
Yeah.
For long enough to look at a lot of budgets, and I don't ever remember anything trending downward. And part of it is not a reflection of overstaffing or mismanagement or over budgeting. The kid that shows up now in 2024 is vastly different than what was showing up 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. There's a whole different dynamic in terms of needs for these kids. And it speaks to a much bigger problem that is being, you're seeing it here. You're seeing it in, a lot of other areas, but just the cost, the special ed costs have, it's like a exponential curve. It's not going up. It's like it gets worse and worse each year. So, but I'm also in agreement that as a Nobleboro property tax payer, it feels very much unsustainable. And a part of this too needs to be, we come to your school board meeting, but make sure you call your legislators, because the state has to start picking up more. You can't, in these days with these costs that are increasing, to continually expect this group of landowners in a given town to foot the bill. It looks every year more and more unsustainable. And it's not because, I've looked at the budget briefly, but it reminds me of the budgets I was looking at before that, health insurance, teacher health insurance, it goes up by 3 to 8% every single year. And that's completely out of control of anyone in the town. So legislators really need to, they have brand new revenue streams from, morally bankrupt revenue streams, but gambling and legalization of marijuana. They need to be told that this money needs to start to funnel in larger numbers towards supporting public education. We're mandated to do a lot of things, but we have to all pay, the landowners in a given town have to pay for it. And it's, that model worked, quite a long time ago, but with what the costs have become and with all the liability possibilities when you run a school, it's staggering. And if you're gonna, public education is a, federal and state mandate, then they better start realizing that we're getting crushed under the burden of that, because it's changed. I mean, from when you were talking about going to public school, I went to a couple of different public schools, and it's just a completely different landscape. And it's changing faster than towns can adjust. And we're not the only town that, and Nobleboro, has had a decent mill rate for, quite a while. But even when you budget good and you try to be as careful as you can, these costs are ones that are largely out of control. So, I'm gonna say at a town meeting and what I say tonight, like, there has to be some reconciling of state subsidy, especially surrounding certain cost centers. So I don't see, and when your funding and balance is down to 100,000, I mean, you're getting to a threshold where, I mean, you can't get much, you don't want to run with it much lower than that.
This year we are.
Yeah.
Right. And,
Yeah.
I mean, and I know when I was on the board, when you look at the year-end report, it was like, there wasn't like this windfall left, it wasn't over budgeting, that we were barely covering, what needed to be covered. So, and a couple unexpected costs, a facilities disaster, or,
Yeah.
Yep.
six
A major
high
storm.
schoolers moving
Yeah.
to your town,
Yeah, 6 high
and your
schoolers. Yeah.
costs go up almost $100,000.
Yeah.
And you can't control that.
So in regards to your mill rate comment and one of your comments, I'm hoping what we see with the reevaluation, obviously, it's been so long since the town has done it, that property tax values are going to go up. That means the mill rate should come down. So, yeah, there's gonna be redistribution going on, and it will be painful for some people. But, hopefully, when done properly, property values will go up, mill rate will come down.
But they'll still raise the same amount.
Yeah, that's the goal, to raise the
Mhm.
same amount of money.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that is a reason that we can overspend. I am not looking to do that at all. I'm just saying that our property values will be going up, but our mill rate isn't gonna be, should not be staying the same.
Some won't pay as much as others. Some of us
Right.
that haven't been valued as for years
Yeah,
are gonna pay the burden. Now, I will also say real quick, Nobleboro compared to some other surrounding towns, yeah, we're still on the low level
Yes, we are.
by far.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that being said, and I know the area you live in, for what my in-laws have, yeah, they're paying way more than you for nickels, way under you. Like no, swamp front, that's it. So I guess that, saying that, Nobleboro has always wanted, I guess, trying to be the retirement community. It's gotta go out the window. It's gotta go to a direction where it is young, where we bring in a few businesses that help foot the bill. I mean, Tidewater is the only business in town that's footing a monster bill. That's it. But it's because Nobleboro never wanted big business. And I get that from a homeowner point of view, but from a business perspective, I also get it that it's not sustainable without businesses to support your town, because that's the only way a town grows. And we also in Nobleboro, unfortunately, to be sustainable like we want to be, well, the selectmen have tried that for so long. We're behind on all our roads. We're behind on this. Now we've actually been cutting costs on the building and we're gonna fall behind fast on our building. We have a parking lot we would like to put in. That's not gonna be funded unless we can come up with
Or
money,
even the
so,
current one maintained.
right, it's,
Yeah.
And then you look at the median home sale
right.
and you're like,
If you can afford a median,
working-
or I say
my
afford,
kids can't afford to buy
neither can mine.
a house in Nobleboro.
Right.
It's just the.
It's the way it's gonna be.
It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's well over, it's closer to 400,000 than
It is now.
300,000, the median.
Yeah, it's
And,
like
and
three
it's not
cents.
just us.
It's
Uh, we're
Yeah.
feeling this pressure of everyone wanting a piece of Maine.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's driving us.
you can't have
Mainers
everybody in your
out.
town that wants to be retired and live there.
Right.
Then you have this, and then there's nothing until you get down to there.
Matt,
It's a-
you actually said something that we need to think about. When the revaluation is done and they go to lower the mill rate. My gut feeling is that the town selectmen will be looking to trade one for the other.
Correct.
And we shouldn't let that happen. They've got to build in cushion. So if the mill rate, for argument's sake, should go from 12.8 down to, 10.5,
Go to 11.
go to 11.
Mhm.
And
And I agree.
build a reserve account that the
Yes,
town doesn't
yes.
have.
Yes.
Yep.
And
That's
you,
going to
being
be,
a business person, completely understand
Yeah.
that. And that's, I think, our hugest problem as,
What's that?
I just don't know, public comment. I don't know if you want to get too far into town meeting politics.
Right, yeah,
because
no, we do need to get back
You
on
are in
track,
a school
but,
board meeting.
yep,
Yes.
okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion on the minutes from our last meeting, please.
ocean.
Thank you, Matt. Second. Thank you, Ree. Any discussion? All in favor? Or, so, Mike still not with us?
No, if he joins, I'll put it back on the screen, but we don't need to watch ourselves.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Okay, so the next regular meeting of the NCS School Board is Monday, April 8th at 5:30 at NCS. The town budget
That
meeting.
is during the eclipse. I don't know.
Oh.
That's been quite a conversation around education, whether or not schools are letting out early so kids aren't on the bus to look at it and buying glasses. And I don't know, we're not even in the totality path. We're
Right.
down quite a bit lower, but there's quite a bit of municipal discussions and education discussions around not holding things that day. It's up to you. I don't.
Also, I'm not as important as the eclipse and I won't be here.
that's-
That's the clincher.
I just want to make sure you knew that because there are people who are, I want to see this. I don't want to do other things, or I don't want to have school. I don't. So I'm just sharing with you that feedback from other places.
Okay,
As of right now, we don't have any plans to let out school early.
will you also not be here?
I'm not sure.
It's,
Oh, wait, well,
I'm still debating that.
that's an issue,
Yeah,
because then we don't
that
have a
is.
quorum. So, new date, because I can't assume that who's gonna fill
Correct.
Matt's spot, Mike, sorry.
Right, they'll need to be
Mike's
sworn in,
spot.
and we need to know if they're available. as well.
Exactly, so I think we just, since we're all here, let's change date right now. Since your meeting schedule is much more packed than all of the rest of ours, what works for you?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the first 2 weeks we're booked with standing meetings.
Okay.
So possibly a Thursday. So Thursday, the 11th, or if you don't want to do vacation week.
Vacation week is the 15th. Right?
Yes, right, Tara? The 15th or the 22nd? Which week is
I
vacation?
think it's the 15th.
We work year round. Thank you. I mean, around.
Oh, no. Later in the month is better for me because that whole week I'm in London.
Oh, I'm going in your suitcase.
Okay.
Is anybody gonna be gone school vacation week?
I just don't.
Okay.
Jet lag.
Getting
I'll do it.
further to the end of the month, it interferes with the May meeting and everything. How about Thursday, the 11th? And if
I just won't be
we
here.
aren't, yeah, if we won't have, can you do the 11th? We'll go with Thursday, the 11th.
Close as possible.
Yep. And that way, you can do it?
yeah, I'm pretty flexible.
Okay. And I
I
can
won't
do
leave
it.
town till May 15th.
It'll snow May 16th.
Oh, crap. I'm sorry.
So, okay, we're gonna move the meeting to April 11th
5:30?
at,
Mhm.
yes, 5:30 at NCS. Okay, good. The next, town budget meeting is tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the gym. And as you know, I won't be there, so I, again, apologize for that, but gotta go support Lucy, so she won another award that we found out about on Monday, so she's up to 4.
That's great.
So, yeah.
I
she's-
saw the first one in the paper right
Yeah.
after you showed me,
Yeah.
too.
So she's
That's
actually gonna be at another art show in Augusta for the 2 months, so anyway. The next meeting of the AOS board will be Tuesday, April 9th at 6 p.m. in central office.
Yes, and Angie, I assume you'll send a rep because your
I was gonna say, how do you-
organization
Yeah.
meeting will be April 11th, 2 days later, to
Okay.
elect a new rep.
Yep.
Matt's been to the last couple of meetings.
Yep.
And you've been to a couple before that, so
May I say something real quick?
Yeah.
So I'd like to be put on that board when it comes time.
Okay.
So if I could go to that meeting,
Okay,
if that's all right with everybody?
anybody have any issues with that?
No.
I do not want to be on that board. So I'm
Matt has been a great
perfectly,
addition to that
I
board.
think that's wonderful if you're willing.
Yeah.
And if you are, there is an email that you need to receive about the training that Sam sent today.
Okay,
So can you get that sent to him?
I can't, I have nothing to do with it because it's
Okay.
to replace me,
Oh,
but I
right,
can
right.
ask Sam to send it.
Thanks. That'd be great. So that Matt can attend that training, because that I think is the 29th, I believe.
Of this month?
Yes.
I will ask Sam to get that to you.
Yeah, or I can
Thank you.
forward mine
That'd be
too.
great too, even if, well, it's both,
Okay,
both try to do it, but I
Um,
always send
Is it
them off.
went at night? What,
yeah.
Okay.
Um, I
29th?
have to make a note or I'll forget. I will do that. I think it's the 29th at 6, maybe.
As
I'll
long
send
as
it to you
it's
tomorrow.
after 5,
Yep, I'll send it to you tomorrow. But yeah.
getting sick of getting out of work early.
Do we have, AOS report? They haven't met since we last met. We
Um,
met that week, quite recently.
So,
We
yeah,
met this week.
yeah, we met
Oh,
this
I was
week.
there.
So,
Yeah.
right, I was just there. So I even brought the paper for a cheat sheet. So they went over the 22 audit. Everything looked coherent. What else we talk about?
We talked about the GSB.
The GSB
RSU.
RSU,
Yeah.
The
they're moving
ESC.
forward on that. And the ESC,
Mhm,
making headway
mhm.
to start figuring
Excellent.
all that. We got paperwork on like what it would be, what it would
Potential
entail.
budgets.
Okay,
And actually, I will say if we ended up just 2 of our schools, the cost formula didn't go up any on us with the way Peter laid everything out, which actually looked good. So, and the other just went over
And the
some,
superintendent search.
yeah, the superintendent search and just went over some, the,
Policies.
policies.
okay, awesome.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the time frame on the ESC?
Uh,
Will the new superintendent be coming in as the head of ESC?
No,
or-
the ESC won't have the superintendent as the director. Most
Okay.
likely it would be the director of finance because that's the highest position within it.
Okay.
The ESC isn't offering superintendent services. That's staying under the AOS or the RSU, so they are not the director of it.
But we will have another whole board for the ESC.
You will,
Have to
but
create one
the-
eventually.
right, the hope is that that only has to meet about 3 times a year. And that the AOS board would become drastically reduced by having less members as well. And the
Right.
GSB RSU board would be less than what it is now. So
So in
overall, it
addition to
works
the
out.
AOS board, there's an ESC board that
It
meets 3
is,
times a year.
But the numbers drop down overall.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
And then the ESC board would be made up of,
One representative from each member unit
Mhm.
sending and the superintendents that are within the district using it for services. as
Meaning
well.
if GSB goes RSU and they have their own superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
they'd have one plus their superintendent. We'd have our ASU superintendent plus one of us
Right.
in Jefferson. And then if Bristol and South Bristol, pending what
Right.
they finally decide. Cause I think they're starting to look into an
They are.
RSU.
Yep.
Right?
okay. Interesting, thank you.
That was a lot of acronyms.
Yeah, okay, superintendent's report.
We're actually gonna pretty much skip that for now.
Okay.
Because Tara is going to do the same presentation next month. She missed some of this month's, and so we're gonna hold it so it's consistent.
Okay.
But also because your agenda is to get ready for the town meeting tomorrow, we'll stick to that.
And Adam's not here, so we're gonna skip principal's report too. It's
It is in your
packet.
drive, yes,
Yeah.
you do have that.
Looks like our enrollment hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So, old business, so budget review for tomorrow. Did you all
No.
get my notes?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can
you didn't get my
notes
note.
ready to go.
He doesn't check emails, Steve.
I do, just not
Here.
often, and it doesn't, I can't print off this.
Actually, I sent it
I'm
to
gonna need
you
a
in an email. Can you print it for him?
Absolutely.
It is,
It's
it's
gonna be
minuscule.
tiny.
It's
Would you
minuscule.
rather I run that through the copier?
Sure, I don't know what else is written on there, but go for it.
I think I know how to switch.
Oh, Lindsay, will you do two? I have one, but it's printed at 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, I never got it.
Tara, I'm gonna attempt. to
Never
do
came
that.
through.
Lizzie, I got it.
You know how to. do
Weird.
it.
You sure you sent it to me?
Yeah.
You left me out on purpose, didn't you?
No, I sent it to everybody.
Yeah, no, it never came through. I,
Thank you for that.
No problem.
actually, yeah, see, hers never came through.
I sent it like,
Yeah.
I sent it the next day after
That's
our
the-
last meeting.
That's the letter to the editor.
Yeah,
but-
that one did, but the other one isn't there.
see?
You were on it.
I was on it. I've been waiting for it.
We
You should've
believe
texted
you.
me, I would have sent it again.
Yeah, let's,
All right,
you know.
I also have the letter that I read that we all wrote and that I read at the beginning of the budget meeting.
Mhm.
I printed it.
The
I didn't
attention-
know, what are you, I don't, it's up to you. Are you planning on reading it?
Well, I think we need to make a statement tomorrow.
I think that's wise. And I think that one of the things you want to do, because as it's already been pointed out, there is tension in the town. There's,
Mhm.
I think, a feeling of, are we gearing up for a fight? And I think it would be nice to have a statement that nobody's looking for, I mean, not in this words, but no one's looking for a fight, that you're looking to work together in the best interest of the student and the students and the town.
Set the tone that we all have the same goal.
I
Yes.
really do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to just say, I would like you
I
personally
agree.
to do most of the speaking.
I agree. Okay.
There you go.
I have taken notes on Angela's notes and I'm thoroughly prepared, but public speaking is not my forte, but I will do whatever I can to.
No, we're all on the same page about that. I agree.
Thank
But
you.
we are all recognize we all can.
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, your town.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I think we all have our strengths and I am happy to start off by reading this but I think there's gonna be times when obviously I'm gonna have to defer to you, defer to Peter, and when I think you're gonna have things that you need to say. I'm just here to make sure that you actually vote for us.
Is that what you're here for?
And obviously things that Jen is, got her strengths at, so I think together,
That is the version that before you helped edited for the paper.
yes.
So it's got the thing at the end, which obviously you don't need to say because everyone's there.
Mhm.
So, but I haven't added anything to address.
Okay, I 100% saw this coming. My question is, do you think it's okay to like, if I take a look and tweak it a little bit
Do whatever you want.
to make it a little bit like conversational, geared towards what we just said?
Do whatever you want.
Okay,
It's you. I'm just giving you a copy so that you have it in your hands.
yeah.
And, I am not offended if you don't read it word for word, trust me.
I just think
Do
the
whatever you feel like you
conversation
need.
changed a little bit
Yep.
between then and now and geared
Agreed.
towards
So it has.
the conversation that needs to be had tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just wanted you to have a printout of it in case.
well, this
you
is
wanted-
perfect because
And you
I was
have
gonna
digital
thank
as
you
well.
for that. You just saved me like from emailing it to me and having it printed out, so thank you so much.
No problem. So yeah. Do we want to discuss how we're going to address are we going to specifically address the thing that the PTO put out or?
Here's what I think we should do. I think we address it just by saying no decisions have been made about what will happen if the budget doesn't pass. Our hope is, that it does pass because we think this is the most financially responsible decision for the town.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
And that's the part that I would like to
Yeah.
add that I don't think is in here.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just asking, is there any discussion on what was put out?
I have.
It's not a
had
school
whole lot.
organization. It's not, it's.
But what it was allowed to,
it
in every
was.
classroom, it was in my boys
Correct,
backpack
and
and
that's,
every boys?
gets to personnel issues that we can't discuss in public.
Okay, that's what I was
Right,
asking.
right.
Okay.
One of the things we try, or I've tried under my administration, is to not, allow
Thank
endless
you.
amounts of outside organizations to promote through the school communication channels,
you.
because everything that we then send gets lost.
Thanks.
However, we do often allow our PTO to, because they're directly supporting the school. So there's, I think, some clarifications and, future suggestions for people looking at it with a different perspective, before things go out.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
And I think we're all on the same page that it may need to be addressed, and if it does, that everyone understands that.
Yeah, no decisions have been, we haven't even discussed any of those things that were brought up. so
Right.
It's just
Right.
kind of, okay. Do we have any other specific questions on the budget that you guys need clarification on?
I don't, I feel like, of course, in the moment, the biggest question that I got over and over again, and I feel like we're having the conversation the wrong way, was about the subsidy.
Okay,
Okay.
let's talk about the subsidy while we're at it.
So as we all know, just three sheets of facts. And there's one fact I'll need to, the exact amount, I have to double check, but I can do that pretty quickly, but I'll speak about it first. Yeah, we received the state subsidy amount for the year we're about to budget on in January. And last January, we received the amount of 403,668.32. We budgeted on that. And we went through the whole process of, going to the budget committee. They asked us to take 100 and something out, 100,000 out. We went down, we whittled it back some things, brought them a budget. It was approved at the town meeting. And then 2 weeks later, the state says, we got another 100 and something thousand for you. And that's the number I got to check. Might be 120. And we're like, okay, that's good news, but we can't use it right now because we just got approval to expend a certain amount, and that has a finite limit on it. We can only expend this year 4,570,000, right? We can't go over that because we are tied to that number by last year's vote. But we're receiving another 120 from the state this year. That comes in, our state subsidy checks come in once a month, middle of the month. Not certain whether or not we've received March yet, but we certainly haven't received April, May, and June's yet. So this money, this additional 120 state subsidy, we haven't even received it yet. We can't spend it. By law, we can't spend it. It has to stay in the account when it arrives. And we have to audit this year and see where we come up before we know whether or not we actually still have it at the end of the year, or some mistake was made somewhere. Or something, which is unlikely.
Or unexpected expenses rather
Unexpected
than
expenses.
mistake.
Right.
But it has been our practice for as long as any of us can probably remember, you would know better, that we roll our fund balances forward to not the very next year, but then the following year. That gives us a chance to close the books on June 30th, which takes a couple of months, to do an audit, which should only take a couple of months, and then get an audited number with a fund balance that rolls into the next year's budget in time for the budget season, is the idea. So any money left over in FY 22 goes into FY 24. Any money left over in 23 goes into 25. Any money left over in 24 goes into 26. This additional subsidy will be money that's left over in 24. It should go into 26. What we're being asked by the select board to do, or at least one member of the select board, move it into 25. That to me is fiscally irresponsible, desperate, there's no precedent for it. And I can't understand why we're being asked to do that. It's not something that our auditor or your finance director recommends. But there's pressure on us to do this, to grab this 120,000 and put it in here which is not going to have a significant, have an impact, but not a significant impact on everybody's property taxes. But it's starting to back yourselves into a corner where why are you budgeting this way? Why are you managing your cash flow this way? There just doesn't seem to be any reason to. And yet there's this demand that we're getting from I got 4, 5, 6, 7 phone calls from per selectman this week asking us to do this every day. So, and it was a demand.
So my understanding is the audit is not complete. We have no guarantee until the audit is complete that we will even.
Well, the
get-
audit isn't complete because the year's only.
Yeah, we're not-
Right,
Right,
but the year's not even done.
we're still in
Yeah.
the year.
Right. So
So we
there's no, where I'm going with this is there's no guarantee until the audit is complete that we will even get that
Total.
figure.
What the
of-
figure would be.
Exactly.
It's unlikely
And-
we won't get it, but it's not guaranteed either.
Right, and when we do get it, it trickles in incrementally, and is it just over the course of April?
No, the whole year.
It's over the course of the whole
12
year.
12 monthly checks.
Okay.
We receive this amount from the state. And so we get that portion of it, is a portion of each of those 12 checks. We've only received probably 8 or 9 of them. Depending on how the checks, see March came in yet, comes in right about now. There's just no reason, that just seems to me an unnecessary demand. And it speaks to the authority of the school committee to set its budget and go to the taxpayers directly with how they want to proceed. So it's an issue of process and lines of authority as much as it is $120,000.
Well, my understanding of the issue that most people were speaking to me about was that there's a concern that there's $100,000 floating around out there that hasn't been spent. So if this comes up tomorrow, I think the issue that needs to be addressed is that whether it gets spent this year or whether it gets spent in 2026,
It's still
This-
not here.
it's yes, but that this is not money that's just sitting there not doing
Unaccounted
for.
anything. Yes,
Right.
exactly.
You have had a fund balance forward the last few years of 300,000, 190,000, 160,000, and that 120,000 may be your only fund balance forward that you have going into the following year. So you're getting down to this point where you're just getting closer and closer to the bone on your checking account.
Mhm.
And now you want to take the bone out, you know, it's like,
And we don't have any reserves. So
May
we
I-
have nothing left in case of an emergency.
Mhm.
I want to clarify a governmental structure as well that I think probably will come into the discussion tomorrow, and we've had to clarify it in a few other towns as well, especially around construction projects. You are not a subcommittee of the select board. You
Right.
are a
That
separate
dynamic needs to
board.
be addressed.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are a separate board elected directly by the voters who you are accountable to. You do not report to another committee in the town. You report to the voters, you know, that elected you. So there is often a sense of the selectmen of any town, select board of any town controls those other boards, but that is not the structure. They would only control subcommittees of themselves. You are directly elected, not appointed by them. And so you do not, they don't tell you.
We don't
the next
negotiate with
steps.
them.
Yeah.
Correct. You hopefully work together and have joint
Yeah.
decisions. Yes, absolutely. But you are your own authority.
I just think it's irresponsible to apply that subsidy before we even have it completely. Like, just,
Well,
Yeah.
that, but if we've worked down every year,
and audit.
I mean, we're gonna be at zero fund balance
Quickly.
forward or negative.
So Peter, you're gonna double check what you're saying. You think
Yeah,
the
I can
figure
check
is
that right now.
120,000?
I'm double checking.
Because originally we thought it was 106.
But the only reason we even
Please
have that is
check it.
because the state recalculated.
Right.
Correct.
And that's the only fund balance
Right.
forward
so
we
when
may
they
have.
Put out the
Yes.
So if they
additional.
hadn't done a recalculation.
Right, so what happens is
we're
when they put
zero.
out the original ED 279, they ask us all, every district around the state to check it for mistakes. Then they take any mistakes that were made, oversights, typos, and they redo the formula based on any mistakes. So that's where, it's not an unlimited amount of money that the state gives. It's one big pot and it's divided into this percentage. So that if you got more, it means somebody else found out they got less because there was a mistake in somebody else's. So that's why it was reassigned or reallocated to us.
So that's the better verb to use. There's a reallocation of
Yes.
funds.
Yes.
The other thing too, what first selectman will say for it this week is that if we had known we were getting that about to find out $1,000 additional last year, then we would have reduced required or additional local, and we wouldn't have come to the town
But-
asking for the money.
We may not have reduced our budget by 92,000 in that case.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
It
the
coulda, woulda,
argument he's gonna
shoulda.
make. It's not necessarily, people say, oh yeah, no. We learned that information.
After
If we had
everything.
learned that earlier, we might have said, no, we're not gonna cut 100,000 out, so you have more for paving, because we got all this subsidy. We were willing to make decisions because of the information we had in front of us. We may have made other decisions if we had known we had that 100. You can't assume that we would have just done that. So that's not a
Yeah.
fair argument.
Well, I don't know any business that would spend money before they have it.
Oh, you don't do that?
Try not to.
I also think there'd be a larger fallout if we go ahead and, okay, to authorize 120,000, it doesn't appear. And then we don't have it, it'll come back on us that,
Mm,
I have truly tried to explain to many people that no matter what we do, I've tried to figure everything out best I can, and we're still at zero next year, no matter what. If not on the other side of zero,
yeah.
because of other issues that have come up that were brought up after we'd already gone to a budget.
And you
Now-
also asked for the per student, the K-8 per
Right.
student numbers. You're the second lowest
We're
of
the
our
second
5
lowest in
towns.
all 5
Right.
towns.
And you've
so-
been asking about the numbers of ed techs compared to enrollment numbers.
Oh, can I
And
have
so
that?
that's all right here for
Yeah,
all of you.
sorry, you guys
Yes,
want
and I just want to note
Yeah.
that the special ed column includes Compass and Pathways and Great Salt Bay's 2 programs and PAL. And regular ed techs include library, Title I, and classroom support. You are not overdone
I was gonna say, we're,
comparatively.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
one of the lowest
Yep.
Right,
comparatively
right,
out of any town.
Oh, my goodness.
right.
And you'll see you're one of the lowest, other than GSB, which has 400 students, you're the lowest. of
Per-
the
right.
towns.
Student.
You're
So
the
this is
lowest in all
good
because
information.
You're the lowest municipal school unit in the AOS for, cost per
Per
student,
student.
Mhm.
the lowest.
Well, and that. So you've got in here secondary public tuition, private tuition, but then we only have K-8 students listed, so. Doesn't that actually bring our number down? Because
Say it again?
you've got secondary public tuition, private tuition, and private insured value in your,
Yeah, that all
Line.
adds up. So what this is, I
Wait,
just
but-
did,
isn't our student number higher?
then I take your total budget and I subtract the secondary to get
Oh,
your
okay.
elementary budget. So you
Okay,
see your elementary budget
oh, I
is
see,
only,
okay,
3,619,000.
I see,
And then I divide
Thank
that.
And then
out.
divided that.
I see it, I just messed up.
So your
Sorry.
elementary student cost is 14,965.
Which if you look at our elementary budget, South Bristol's the only one that's lower than
Right.
us.
Hmm.
But they only have,
They
if you
have-
take per child, they have,
A third of the
everybody.
students that you have.
yeah, they're 38,000 per
Right.
student, which
Yeah.
is. And I will note that they just passed their budget.
Yes, they did.
They were up
With no
400 and something thousand,
You mean
correct?
24,960.
Yeah, Peter, you have
Yes,
the increase,
yeah.
I'm sure, of South Bristol's budget this year.
Because actually, we're one of the least.
400,000 it was. yeah.
Jefferson's looking at 900,000
Jefferson's
increase
looking at a large
No,
one.
Jefferson's looking at a 1.1 something million increase.
over last year.
Over last
year.
Okay, I thought Wayne told me last night it was 900.
They are creating their own behavior program because of the numbers that they have warrant that. And so they're looking at, again, when we talked about how Pathways and Compass were apportioned, you all paid a share no matter how many students you had in it. And I've given you the information that Nobleboro was paying an equal share for 4 students. And another district was paying an equal share for 13 students. So you were carrying the weight of another town. That town was Jefferson. So now they're looking at funding the program for 13 students, whereas you're looking at.
In-house
Yeah,
or whatever,
at, looking
So
at the
it's not
numbers
the
for your
whole
4.
teacher,
Yes,
ed
so-
tech.
The costs are going to where they should be, and they understand that.
Yeah,
They've-
and so
they've done
hopefully
well.
we can tuition our students to their program. Ideally.
That would be great. Yeah, there's options. That's what we're talking about now. A per student actual cost rather than a flat share
Mhm.
that may or may not work out for you because it's
Sure.
not evening out over time.
Yeah.
It's not.
All right, a couple things. The additional subsidy is 110,917.33. Now, I want to clarify something that, Matt, you said that I just want to make sure we're on the same
Would you say
page.
33?
Yep.
Thank you.
You said there won't be any fund balance forward next year because we're gonna go right down to zero. But they're not gonna spend this. We're going down to zero on our budget, but this was never in our budget.
Mm.
Okay, so we're gonna,
119.
our budget, we're gonna take it, we're gonna need to go down to pretty much the bottom line. But this isn't in our budget,
Right,
so we won't be spending this,
right.
right? Just making sure.
Yeah, no, that's,
So
I'm
that-
just saying with the things that have arose that we weren't.
Yep.
That everybody always says, we ought to start, putting away for a rainy day if it happens, and everybody says, yeah. it's not gonna happen.
Hmm.
Well, some of those things have happened.
Yeah.
And
They
now
always do.
you look at the numbers and you
And
think,
that's
this isn't gonna work this
expensive
year, no
way
matter
to
what we
run.
do.
The other thing to remember
The business.
is that, we've always heard the, selectmen say, hey, if you need more money, come back
Come
middle of
back,
the year.
yeah.
We went back in the middle of the year.
Right.
We did, and they said, why are you here? You don't need to be here. And we said, well, we're here because you told us we needed to be here, and this is a $36,000 project that we want you aware of because there's potential that we're gonna need more money. And they said, why are you here?
Yep.
Okay,
They said, see where you land June 30th, and if you really are in a problem, we'll talk then.
Yep.
We're like, we have identified this opportunity to save $12,000 a year on electricity or whatever, but I think it was 12. And we're saying we don't have the money to make that investment, to make that savings, so should we go ahead and make the investment, but we're not giving you the money.
yeah.
Speaking of that, have you kept track of the light bill at all?
Oh, man.
What?
Well,
I'm just
we
asking.
need more data. We still need more data to
Yeah.
actually see,
I'm not saying it was a waste. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I'd like to see where we're at.
yeah.
For
see
to
the
say,
receipts.
see, this is what we've
Right.
done, this is what we've saved. I think more improvements on the building are necessary to save us long-term, not today, but
Yeah.
overall.
This isn't about the
Yeah, one
efficiency main
trip.
savings, but I have some good news. I have certain, like,
Absolutely.
really good news on electricity.
Yeah.
So right now, natural gas is at like a historic low. It's almost at like production cost.
Mhm.
And which means we buy all power in Maine. That's almost all power that we get in Maine is created by natural gas power generation. And so the company Community Energy Services that we did that deal with, we bought the Shell power at 13.4 cents a kilowatt hour for 4 years or for 30 months. I just renewed the contract for 4 years at 9.5 cents.
Nice.
Now, we were getting 30 cents when we went into the
Nice.
deal. And-
Well, I remember when you were looking
Yeah.
at doing a deal,
Yeah.
it was high and we all didn't want to
So-
go that far out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which now.
20 years.
That's
Right.
awesome.
So it's not ever,
Yeah.
that was,
Yeah, that's awesome.
so that's 30% plus
Yeah.
than the 50% less that we were doing, right? So efficiency main will definitely kick in to some degree, but this also will. So everything's moving in the right direction on
Yeah.
power.
That's
Great.
great,
That's great.
Peter. Thank you.
Thank you. Because for a long time, it was moving in the wrong one. Great. That's wonderful news.
So yeah, we have the number on the subsidy bid. And that will come up. Are we kind of all comfortable with the situation is with that? I'll talk about that.
Mhm.
So if I could just say how these, in the line of conversations that I've been having with different people, and I spoke with a lot of people this last week and earlier, and there's more than one selectman. And some of the, another select board member said, what you do, we understand the subsidy. I don't want to start going spending that subsidy now and driving it down, because if we bring all our costs down to the bone, then we have to borrow money to kind of, for short-term loans. We were doing that, but we were doing that when the interest rates were so low. Now the interest rates are back up. We can't continue that practice. So that's another reason why we should keep this subsidy in the bank. Okay, so just know that some people in the room feel that way.
Yeah.
But then where that conversation leads is, so take the subsidy out, you're still left with people saying, and it gets into this question that Matt was asked for the data, can you cut a position? And that's where I want to make sure, because I plan on being at this meeting tomorrow, but I want to make sure I don't say anything that isn't what you're directing me to speak about. So if I get asked about what positions cost or anything, and I want to be able to support those who are at the meeting, I want to make sure I hear what your thoughts are on that line.
Well, I would say it's our goal to not cut any positions, but that's,
Well, as it shows, and that's why, and that's the way I've voiced it, we're already lower.
Yeah.
We're on the low end of anybody of per child help. So why do we want to go lower when we actually hold a pretty good standard in our school?
Yeah.
I mean, our kids are getting a
Yeah.
pretty good education, and with who we have on the lower end is how I would put it, the K through 3. They're there because by the time they get to 4 through 6, they're not needed as much because they've kind of learned how to act in school
Absolutely.
correctly. And if we start removing them, all it's going to do is a trickle effect down.
Yeah.
and I think two other points that are maybe coming from a positive point of view. One is that the teachers and Adam have both made the point over and over and over again, how important that support staff are, to the students.
Yeah.
So that's point number one. And then point number two is that if this money, comes out of the budget, how small of an impact that's going to have on taxes versus how large of an impact it's going to have on students.
Actually,
this
I
whole
did,
school
I did want to
population.
know that because it is bundled together. So our ed techs,
Mhm.
and overall, what do they cost us? Because for some reason, everybody thinks the ed techs are costing us a fortune, and they're not.
And there's several positions that aren't even.
They're
filled.
paid less than I
They're paid.
will do it
yeah.
for.
Yeah, no, it's
Yes,
not the
yeah.
ed techs. that are-
Absolutely.
No, really. I mean, but everybody that I'm getting questions from says, oh, we don't need that many ed techs.
It's not the. ed
Well, I've
techs.
tried to tell them, we can cut all the ed techs and we haven't dropped the mill rate.
No,
No.
no.
But without that number, I almost feel like I'm kind of talking.
So I think what we need to point out, I mean, ahead of all of the things that were in that letter that went out, I mean, none of us have spoken at all about
No.
cutting any of those
No.
things. What we have spoken extensively about cutting is the secondary bus.
Bus.
So we have one secondary bus being used
Mhm.
this year. And that is serious consideration of being cut because it's 74,500, I believe. But that affects, what was our high number? 38
Correct.
38 students
I think it was, yes. It was.
seasonally, but our
Right.
high
Mhm.
usage of that bus, high number, is 38 students using that bus. And so if we cut that, that's seriously affecting around 38 families who now have to transport their children to school. So is it a good option? Absolutely not. But it's
It's the easiest way
Will we
without
force
us
to-
losing.
Answer difficult questions.
So the other thing
I
I've
think it
told,
should be brought up. I mean, I'm not there. It's up to you guys.
No,
But
I
I think
I'm
that
kind of the mind of like, don't even bring up anything like that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to
right,
it.
but we don't want to go in willy-nilly.
yeah,
You want to be prepared for, so with me, with the bus, if the town decides to pull, well, that's what we would cut. One, because we hope Lincoln Academy wants our students, so they'll figure out something on their end. And two, my argument has been to some of them, look, if you don't like the way it is and that's something you want to cut, take them to the Old County Road. Madomic will pick them up at the town line.
But I don't see, I guess, maybe I'm missing something, what we're gaining by preemptively saying, if this doesn't.
No,
pass,
no,
we'll-
but
I think,
but
Right,
it's
you're
something-
thinking about when to say it.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
What
they're,
to say.
I think that it needs to, at some point, should be said so that if those 38 families that it would affect are there, they're
Yes.
aware that, if they say, I think you should cut 100,000, that bus is probably the first thing to go.
so the other thing I'm nervous of, and this is how this is going, they may tell us to cut 100,000, but it's line by line, so they may tell us to cut 100 out of the teachers.
But I don't understand why you're saying they.
Somebody on
Half,
the floor.
half.
Somebody can
Somebody on
make
the
a
They
floor.
can, they can motion
Right.
to, so
they
say our
can make a
budget,
Motion in that one cost center, right?
Right.
Reduce it by an X amount and then everybody votes to either.
and
move
if
or
it
not.
passes, that means that
Mhm.
line moves, not the whole
So-
budget, that
Okay.
line.
You
moves.
could
So I
have
understand why you
motion
want to be prepared,
anywhere. Yes.
but I also think you want to be prepared for using the support that could be in the room.
Mhm.
And I think you ought to go into leverage that support and go into sort of activate that support by speaking to it right from the top.
Yeah,
We had a situation in the AOS meeting where we ended up passing every article except the first one. There was an amendment to drop the first article. And people were like, what's going on? And it's $17,000 get cut out of special ed. And then people said, wait a second. And then the same amendment was introduced for each of the other cost centers and people voted about 65%. Other people said, no, we're going to keep it the way it is. I think you need to kind of let people know what's at stake at the beginning.
mhm.
And so if people start proposing things, people aren't saying what's happening in the room right now, because you've already spoken. There may be people here who try to reduce this budget today. The school committee does not want this budget reduced.
Mhm.
We hope that you will vote in favor, but I mean, you have to kind of get up there and say that at the beginning, I think.
Yeah.
And say, we have tried, I think you need to make the pitch. We have tried to cut everything we can of this.
And if a motion is presented to cut from an article, someone needs to stand up and say, this is what would have to come out of that article.
Exactly.
whatever it is, so that they know what it is. Yeah.
So the articles are by cost center,
By
which
cost
is
center.
nice and
Gotcha.
easy to figure out. So that like the first one is going to be regular
Yeah.
instruction.
Right.
Somebody stands up and says, I make a motion to cut this
X.
by 100,000. They're not gonna say line 5 by 100,000. So
It's gonna be in the
it's
whole.
gonna be
So-
that whole thing.
While we're at regular instruction, can we talk about one of the lines in there that
Yeah.
I think there is news since you passed your budget?
Yep.
Can we talk about Cal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then we did talk about that at the meeting February 28th
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
So the kids heard that.
Since you acted, and this is like, I don't know how to, you have to be careful how you want to address this in your public meeting, because it's about what other towns are doing.
Yeah.
One of which hasn't even finished taking action yet. But in the current Jefferson budget,
it's cut.
there's no money there for Cal.
And Bristol cut it.
In the Bristol budget that's being voted on Tuesday, there's no money there for Cal.
Mm.
You have a Cal cost of $180,000-ish that you used to have 120 funded by the towns, and now you just have what you have in your budget, $58,000.
Right,
The likelihood of being able to operate that program at all
right.
is pretty thin. So I think one of the things you need to consider is, do you let it go? And that's $58,000 in regular ed. And I'm not
Yeah,
suggesting you do, I'm just saying,
If had,
before you cut your bus, you
Right.
might want to think about this.
right. Yeah, and Adam has ideas about how to continue to run a modified version of it with the amount of money that is still in here.
Right, and he's
So-
waiting to see what happens tomorrow
Yeah.
before making any other motions.
Yeah.
and I do think from talking, not all of them, but maybe there may be a couple that would tuition in.
To the Cal program,
Yes,
to the
because
the
now
new
it-
version of the
Well,
Cal
now it
program.
would be a tuition in. Their kids can't
Right,
come. They
right.
have to pay the state, what, 14,000
Mhm.
as a
State rate,
tuition,
yeah.
which isn't gonna make up the 120.
Mhm.
But if we were able to keep it,
Wonder what timeline, sorry, Adam's working with, because Doug Parcher's retiring, so there's that position that would have to be filled, and you can't fill a position with the uncertainty of the entirety.
Well, yeah, but as of tomorrow,
Yeah.
the uncertainty will,
be
well,
over,
to some extent be over.
Well, there's a lot
Then it
more
comes back to us.
right?
If cuts happen, it then comes back to us to figure out where they're going to happen.
Mhm.
Um,
Just speak to the tuitioning. I've seen that conversation develop, neither budget did they keep any tuition money in, they
They
did
did.
14,000 out.
So it won't, yeah,
So
unless
that's
the
not bad
parents
right now.
decide to do it
Right.
independently.
right.
So
It's too bad.
Yep,
the difficult thing for me in this is that, this is your first article.
Yeah.
And if it was your last one, and if there, it's like if the pressure increases, and they've already passed the first one, this is the one, this is to me the only thing, and it's because you budgeted accurately with the information you had at the time, but that information has now changed. The other thing I think is worth saying in this room at this time is that how you have contingency, 2 secondary ed students in this budget.
Yep.
They're up to 4.5 needed right
Right.
now.
Oh, no, really? So we're already 2.5
Yes, but we
behind.
don't know, kids move in and out.
I know.
Remember,
Right.
so it
Yeah.
fluctuates.
That's the-
It
I
may
know.
go down.
Is that
Usually by this time of the year, we still,
You should-
I mean,
the
we're
4
still
and
there.
the 4.5 is one of those, the special needs that's on
2 is-
year 5?
The
Two is
two of
the
them
year
are.
5, 'cause
Two
they
of
get
them
the
are.
double tuition,
Mhm.
right?
Okay,
Mhm.
The other 2.5 are just changes in your population, who would get
Mhm.
in the counts, et
Right.
and
cetera.
as it was said, it's till year 23 age if they choose so, correct?
Potentially, yes.
I
It
mean, they-
depends on the IEP team determining that's still beneficial to them, but yes, it can go up to 22.
22,
Yeah.
So we're already behind in this.
You're already behind.
right, we're upside,
In regular ed.
and that's where I
So
meant, we're already
The
upside
truth
down,
is, you need the Cal money to pay
The regular ed.
right?
that's the truth of it. You don't want to cut anything out of.
Or some of a teacher's salary that's retiring or something like
Well, that's
that,
what-
and hope you hire somebody green right out of school,
Doesn't look like it's happening this year.
right?
I mean, I think your best bet is to go in
So where's that,
strong
line?
from the start. and
Which one's
try
it?
to keep it and to say.
Hmm?
this is-
Where's the
The opening statement is
Where's our
gonna be
tuition?
very important.
37.
Mention like.
37.
That's 38
The lowest.
Mhm.
is, and then so
Mhm.
contingency is 40.
Yes. So secondary public is if a kid goes to Madomic or Booth Bay.
Right.
Private is Lincoln. This goes with Lincoln, the state sets that.
So which one's our
And the
contingency?
contingency is
is
right
40.
here.
Okay, it's line 40,
Yes.
so we have it at 17.
No, that's the difference.
Oh, sorry, we have it
31,908.
31,908, but what do we really need it at?
You need 2.5 times that, or
We need,
you need
28 more.
68.
mhm.
So 31,908 for two, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have 4.5 you need right at this moment.
So we need 71,793 total for that line. As it is at the moment.
Yeah. So if you cut out the Cal teacher, you still need the money
Well,
for it, honestly. You
Right.
can't just you have nothing to give here.
Well, and that's where I was saying we're already upside down on
Yeah.
our budget.
No, I wouldn't go in saying that.
No, but in my eyes, no matter how I run these numbers, even if we don't cut anything, I see a zero
Yeah. Oh,
at
yeah.
the end of the year or the other side of zero. And that's, no, I'm not saying that because that's just cry wolf all you want. And I don't like
It's
to
hard
do
to
that.
play with the contingencies because kids move in and out all year long.
But I
And
think
so
there's
I'm
other
very cautious
things-
about
Right, but I
Yeah.
think there's other things
reacting to
that
that.
are gonna come into effect.
Yeah.
That people don't see yet, nor can,
Mhm.
I mean, that's why
that
it's
is
a
gonna hit
budget.
us.
It's not,
Right.
it's not a bill, it's a budget.
Right.
It's
The
again,
town thinks it's the
it's
bill,
the best educated,
yes, of where we'll be at. And this year, we
Pick
actually
apart.
short-filed ourselves.
yeah, we did. Yeah, it's,
So is there, anybody had any questions about other lines or about other areas, from town people?
I feel like I had a question a while ago, but now it's like been buried under all other discussion.
Mine have always been it's the first line. That's where everybody says we're over.
well, and the other thing is, we do have veteran staff,
Well,
You do.
we
And I
have-
pointed that out, when you have a
Veteran staff.
40-year-old teacher that is making above and beyond what anybody else is,
A
there's
40-year
nothing.
veteran, you
Right.
mean?
30,
Yeah.
He's older than
Got that.
40, but I mean, you don't get to control that.
No.
Until he decides it's time, or whoever,
Right,
Well, and the positive way to phrase
You
that
bring so
is,
much value.
but it
to
is,
this,
he
yes.
does, but he does, and
Exactly.
so do a lot of our staff.
that's
but,
a benefit,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's a
It's to
huge.
our benefit that we have veteran
is.
teachers and it speaks to the environment
Well,
at
it
our
speaks to
school.
Yeah.
How the kids leave Nobleboro.
Mhm.
If we had all new teachers, I think our issue would be way different. Not on the cost, but on the way the kids come out of Bristol.
Mhm.
I don't think it
No.
would be as. Wow,
You grew
that's
up
a
in Bristol.
That was a long time ago.
ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, 30 years ago. Since I moved out of Bristol.
All right,
So,
so obviously some of my notes will have to be adjusted based on the, like line 43. It's not our third share of the program anymore because
there is,
Bristol hasn't budgeted for it any, and neither has Jefferson. So my notes are as of when we presented it. Sure.
Your notes are wonderful.
To the budget committee.
You have nothing.
And and a lot of it is like contractual obligation or health insurance always goes up, we have to have something in there for an allowance. And we don't know what that is yet, what it's actually gonna be, but we don't want to under budget that because it is a large expense. So. Great. And I don't know how many more times we can cut things out of building maintenance.
well, we shouldn't have this year, I guess. I mean,
Excuse me.
it's funny. I don't know if it's time. So I've been pushed to try to get that land, right, in our name.
Yeah,
And I keep saying, why should I push? You guys don't want to spend any money.
yeah,
Why should I get somebody to donate something and now you guys just don't want to do anything?
Yeah.
Well, I think also kicking the can rarely has any other result besides backfiring spectacularly. And that's what we've been doing.
Yeah,
Yep.
for
It's
years.
not the most financially responsible way to go.
It's not financially responsible at all.
No.
So I have to run out, but I will be there tomorrow. What do you want to do? How do you want to use me? Like, what do you want me to do? Say, not say, whatever? What am I?
You
Are you
can't
co-
speak unless the town approves you speaking.
So,
They have
yeah,
to make a motion. for that.
Somebody needs at the very beginning of the meeting, ask the moderator to allow both
Lindsay
Lindsay
and
and
Peter.
Peter to speak.
Yeah,
I'm going to try. I'm waiting on some schedule details, but I'm gonna try.
So just make sure, I don't know who the moderator will be,
mhm.
but just make sure, like, even before the meeting starts, just go up to them and say, like, can you please, do this at the beginning of the meeting? So it just,
And I imagine
More efficient.
Adam as well.
yep,
Do we know if Adam's coming?
I think Adam will be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to
So
him
those are the
recently.
3 people that I'm planning on asking that they be recognized to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're not a
Um,
resident of the town, there has to be a vote.
And then I think, how do you feel about speaking to the subsidy issue, or are you more comfortable or having Peter speak?
Well,
to
that's
that
how I see
subsidy?
using you. I mean, I wish I could articulate exactly how I foresee having to use you, but I think, in the moment that there will be things that I
So,
defer to you.
I think the subsidy should be
important that-
addressed at the beginning.
Mhm.
Like, if I was there, the way
Mhm.
that I would like to see it happen is have you get up, or if it had been me, get up before they start voting on any of the articles for the school,
Mhm.
and go through the explanation, and have Peter speak about the subsidy.
When you say go through the explanation, do you mean read
No.
the statement?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, and then have Peter speak to the subsidy question
Mhm.
up front before the voting starts and confusion gets
Mm,
out of
that's
hand.
Mhm.
So, and I would ask the moderator to allow that,
Mhm.
ask them before the meeting starts, say, like, is this okay? Can we do it this way?
And we don't know
Because I
who the
think-
moderator is yet.
I don't, but
It's not always that gentleman.
it's either Don Means or,
He has been for the last quite a few years.
do you know who it is?
He's listed, I believe he's listed in the warrant.
Okay,
Asking for authorization to have him be.
okay. What time is voting
Right at
close
the
tonight?
beginning.
I haven't made it to the town office yet.
Right, because they have to start the meeting by
You know?
electing him or
Do what?
nominating him to do it.
To vote at the town office tonight. Does anybody know what time voting closes for
But what?
school board and selectmen?
It happened.
It already
It's already
happened.
closed.
That was last week.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
And
I am just so far out of the freaking loop. I
It
didn't
was
make it
last-
then either.
Yeah, Republican primaries. That's when it was.
Missed that. That's the first time I've missed voting
Really?
since I was 18 and.
I honestly, I didn't go vote, and I will say that just because there was no abutting on
the
anything, so.
First time I've missed it, and the past 2 weeks have just floored me. Anyway,
I wonder why.
yes, Peter.
Yeah, I'm keeping my mouth shut because I know you're running late. So thoughts from a citizen who's been at all of the meetings for the last many months, including the big AOS meeting that was held at the school. Some observations. The way the meeting went down in front of the budget committee, okay, was really bad. It was handled poorly throughout. I'll leave it at that without mentioning any name. It created a monstrous amount of bad will. Okay? It's okay.
Yep.
That's when we remember that. I think it's really important that tomorrow morning, I think your idea of having the presentation made up front is very relevant. I think having Peter speak to the specific numbers is important because from my experience, he is recognized as really knowing what he's talking about. Okay? I think the presentation, right?
Yes.
That you make needs to be very open, giving the maximum feeling of transparency and understanding that there are multiple points of view that are competing. Okay? And I think a lot of the information that you handed out today should be shared with the audience before any voting occurs. Because there are numbers there, and I understand now from studying that I guarantee you are the absolute opposite of what a lot of people think.
Mhm.
And it's very important And it needs to be presented in such a way that is not anybody defending the school's position. The numbers are what the numbers are, and you have to present it. Here are some numbers that are in your best interest to understand, that look at our school relative to some of the other schools. Okay? That's gonna go some ways to chilling down the atmosphere and allowing people to be open to listen.
That's why I won't.
Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I think that,
Now,
yeah, so I think at the
let that
beginning,
echo in my head.
until
Thank
questions,
you,
until
Peter.
specific questions arise, I think just speaking to the subsidy part to try and get some clarification ahead of
Yeah.
any articles would be good.
Some of the information that everybody requested of me today that we kind of quickly got, I'm gonna kind of come in, meetings at 10.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pop in here a little earlier than that and dress it up a little, bring some handouts so that people have the information in front of them.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
good evening.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right, so we've got recognizing Peter, Lindsay, and Adam, reading the statement, asking Peter to speak in regards to the subsidy.
Yeah.
And speaking
Speaking
on
to
where
these,
we stand by numbers,
Yeah.
by,
We want Peter to do that, or include,
no,
I have
I
that
actually
included in
think
the
you-
board statement.
I'd rather, these things, I almost think I'd rather come from you,
Yes,
because being a resident, I think it will mean more.
included in the board statement.
Also, Matt, I think where you're getting a lot of these questions, that could be an opportunity for you to chime in and say, I've been asked this a lot, here's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, on things like this, I don't mind speaking.
I mean, you're.
Well, how about after Peter speaks in regards to the subsidy, I hand it off to you and you talk about that. Mr. Practical.
One of us has to
speak,
say.
speak to the face.
I'll say Matt and I don't agree on much, but here's something we do agree on.
You're
Yeah.
talking about both of these, speaking towards both of these.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
okay.
that, I mean, those are the biggest questions I get.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. No, this is very.
And I think the people who
Good
are reaching
information.
out to Matt with those questions will respect the answers from him well,
Yeah.
too. They'll want to
Well,
hear.
and I think that's
you know,
why
That's your
And
strategy.
it- and
Yeah,
it's-
that's why I
And
think
it's
hand
funny,
off to
because
you.
I'm betting the questions other people get are in other areas,
Mhm.
Yes, I think you're right.
because I know most, everybody in town knows I'm fairly
Fiscally
conservative.
conservative, exactly. Yep.
But if I'm gonna go to bat for something, there's a reason for it,
Mhm.
you know, and that's,
Yeah,
which has been a little rough for the last couple of weeks, I can say, because I'm done arguing with people.
so how do I phrase that? Hand off to Matt to speak on,
Well, just, I mean, the, comparison of.
No, in the past,
recognize the gentleman in the.
That's right.
the dirty clothes and showing the comparative, you know, giving people perspective on like, we feel you're paying too. Other towns are in the same
Worse.
boat
Or worse.
or worse, and as you'll see, and I hope he does bring those printouts so people can pick them up and recognize like, okay, it's not like there's a, you know, disaster brewing in Nobleboro. It's like, this is pressure on all these towns.
This is statewide,
Right,
nationwide.
and comparatively, we're actually, you know, compared to around us, you know, we're in better shape than a lot of these towns, even though it may look not great.
And I would
And the other
probably,
thing to continue stress is he said that if the voters take money out of this budget, you're the voters, you know, we're bound to do that, but there will be real world consequences to students, families, like, this isn't like, okay, we'll go trim another 100,000 of fat off. There's nothing.
nothing.
We brought you our best
And I can
info.
tell
Yeah.
you just what I know about
Mhm.
how the special ed things are changing, that it will be triple the problem 2 years from now. If you take this money out, you're gonna pay it double, you know, on the next cycle, because there's changes coming in the central office, special ed, and those, as you guys didn't know this stuff as you were building your budget,
Mhm.
but you know, and I mean, when I read the paper, you know, I know when you hear about GSB forming RSU, Jefferson pulling out of, all the schools essentially pulling out of stuff like Cal, and like, there's gonna be a huge hole if you take and create a hole in this, particular cycle. That hole's gonna exponentially be bigger down the road. So looking ahead is another reason that we can't, we really feel like we have to hold the line on this.
Yes,
I
Peter.
want to go back to two things that Josh said. When you talk about the comparative, I would avoid saying, we're in pretty good shape, because people will see that as you defending.
Yes.
As opposed to, the good news is, when you look at us relative to the others, we haven't been doing a terrible job.
You're correct. Wordsmith.
We're not
that.
over,
Yeah.
we're not over.
Also,
Yeah.
when you talk about it's gonna have real impact. That's a threat. To most of the people who are gonna be at that meeting, that's a threat. What you need to say, in my opinion, is that when we look at this budget, if you do ask us to go back and make changes, we're going to go back and do what we have to do. Unfortunately, it will have real impact on current school families and services. Unfortunately, it's much better than it will.
Well, I think, Peter, I'm glad to hear you say that, and I think that's why Angela and Matt and Jen are kind of electing me to do this, because wordsmithing is.
It's her. thing.
Ree's pretty good at
it.
She's a public person.
She tries to turn everything to the positive, which is
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Some things are not my strength, but this is something I can do.
So I think if you're gonna speak to these, refer to the fact that they, are at the table, because sometimes people don't get them.
But my understanding is Matt will be speaking.
Whoever.
Right.
Whoever.
Yeah, there'll be.
Yeah, there are
I'll make
handouts
sure
at
from
the
Peter
table.
first, there are handouts.
Just so that, because, sometimes, and maybe even give people a minute to go get that, so they can see it if need be.
Mhm.
I think it's worded right if I put, we are with ed tax holding to the lower end of what's the best way to word that? I don't like talking.
We have a lower ratio. We have less ed techs per
Well, Matt,
student. than
you and
other
I can work on
colleges. Yeah.
these together, and it might not be a bad idea for you to have a written
Sorry,
to read.
yeah, I'm a wing it kind of person.
Well,
Maybe Ree wants to handle these. Do you want Ree to handle these? Are you uncomfortable? You're fine to say you are.
No, I don't mind. I just,
what's great about writing things out ahead of time is you have a chance to tool it
yeah,
and to.
no,
To
I'll
think about it, just
Yeah.
even in your head. Yeah.
Exactly, and to maximize the impact.
I'll sit
And,
down and figure something.
Mhm,
I don't mind saying it at all,
mhm.
just making sure
But I think that
it comes out. right.
for various reasons, it would be important to have it
Written.
come from you.
Yeah, no, and I do agree with you there, just because I think those are the questions that have come to me
Mhm.
steady. The only other question that's come to me is, why don't we go to private school? So,
That doesn't save you money
yeah,
at all. I can show you the model. Actually, it would end up costing the town.
is there a model for that? Because
Well,
that may be a
Yeah,
question
so
that comes up.
consider it this way. If there's a private school in town, right? The
Which there
town
is.
of Nobleboro has to pay the state-approved tuition rate is $14,000, right?
Yeah.
Look at what it costs per student.
So we're already at 24.
You're $11,000 short per student to start, right off the bat. Who's paying that? You're asking the parent to pay the difference over the town-approved amount. You do not save money by going to a private school model.
Okay, so that answer is prepared.
Right, I mean, the amount per student you'll get is that town 14,000. You'll be $11,000 short per student to start.
I think the argument on that, and that's where I don't know, and I said, I'm not sure, is how does it work? So I know how it's working with us with the Montessori.
Sure,
So special ed, we still have to come up with the money,
Correct.
correct?
yes,
Now,
that's on
but
top of the
how
14,000.
does the state mandate on special ed on private?
Yes,
There's still a
yes,
mandate.
there's statute that
So there
says
is no-
charge up to the same amount.
Right, but there is no getting around
No,
the special. ed.
no,
Right, and
that
that's.
is federal too. That's not even
Right,
state.
and that's what I thought,
Yeah,
and that's what I said, and I was really hoping I wasn't talking.
No,
out of
you are
turn when I
correct
said
on that. That is.
Because I
federal
I
law.
can spout every once in a while.
This is why you write things down, Matt. This is why you write things down.
So, yeah,
Okay, so-
IDEA is that law. IDEA, it spells the
Right,
word
so
idea,
even if we would,
and you
and
will not
actually,
get around it.
yeah, the only thing on private that would change would be.
The
high-
parents would have to
Well,
individually
but
say.
meaning, teachers, union, that's the only thing that could actually have a change, right? Because technically a private school doesn't have to, like Lincoln doesn't.
Sure.
But that's
Sure.
it, but that's
Yeah.
the only number,
Yeah.
but you're gonna get what you pay for,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
their
that's,
argument would be, right, that'll force them to cut all this stuff.
yeah.
To bear it, to pare it down to.
but that's what I'm trying to make
Yeah.
that, their argument not work for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, I know, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was one question that I have a feeling might be brought up, and I just wanted
Sure.
ground to stand on, because I know. Yeah, the Montessori school, we cut them X anyway, but if there is somebody special in there, then we have
We
to
have to
give.
send the services over.
We have
Yeah.
to send the services over there,
Correct. Mhm.
right? Even though that's a pay-as-you-go school.
Correct.
And I do know from just actually walking around there in the last week,
Yeah, they called you then.
they did. There's a lot of that's mostly volunteer
It is a
parents.
lot of volunteer, a lot
The
of volunteer.
parents,
Mm.
like 5 of them that I met with, they work part-time and they volunteer the other.
Oh,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that stuff over there, the snacks, yeah,
Yep.
it's,
How fortunate for them to have a good volunteer.
Volunteer pool, yeah, yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, I
Okay.
think,
Right, does anybody have any other things uncomfortable answering potential questions? I know it's hard, what the question's gonna be, but anything else you feel like we need to discuss tonight on budget?
does anybody know what number we started with?
Yes,
And Peter can have original versions as well, but they should be.
hold on.
I think we shaved 90 something.
Okay, when was our first budget meeting?
January.
January 18th.
You saw an overview January. Yes.
This is the overview.
Yep.
This is the,
Excuse me.
this was printed January 8th, so this is the overview that we actually had at our board meeting before we had our budget meeting here.
The first one we started with.
Yes.
And what was
What
that?
number do you want?
The total.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that this is the right copy. I think it is.
I was gonna say no, spit out.
Um,
Sorry, I had to say it.
budget FY 25. Okay. Ready?
Mhm.
Yeah.
5, 1, 7, 8, 4, 5, 3.13. And we are at 5073. I'll do the math. Hold on.
5073.
Hold on.
You stopped with your numbers.
Yeah, no, the page fell. 5073055.08.
So yeah, we're down 105,
398.05.
398.05.
105, 398.05. Because, and part of that, in other versions, we were lower. We had cut more. But
Right.
when we came back to our final meeting
Down
and then budget vote,
We
there were
added,
things that had to go back up
Mhm.
based on
Real
current
life events.
expenses.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, like current needs and expenses. We
correct.
were way under budgeted on a couple of things for this year that we've expended. Over.
It might be helpful to be able to tell the people what adds up to the roughly $500,000 increase, the large hunks. I mean, inflation is inflation, the teacher salaries are gonna go up based on the contract, yada, yada, yada.
There aren't any
I was gonna say,
really defined big chunks. It's,
they're
I mean,
everywhere.
yeah, by cost center, it's,
I think one answer is that ESSER funds ran out.
Right, which
The
we
ESSER
had been trying at every meeting, say, look, sooner or later, this
Yep.
is, you need to be prepared. And I think we said that last year.
we've been saying it every time.
This is done. This is the last year we have nickels to play with. And after this, it's on the town. Yep. And now that it's, yeah,
What was the total ESSER number?
Oh, gosh.
The allocation?
Yeah.
Let me pull up all my charts. That'll probably take me a minute to find them, just so you know.
And I actually think some of my notes,
I think another reason is this is a negotiation year.
correct, it is a negotiation year and we have not signed a contract.
correct.
So total regular instruction, you can see on my note line. More than half of that increase in that cost center is in the teacher salary line. So I mean, the increase in that line is the increase in that cost center is 204,000, 7, 12, 21.
That's
Half of,
almost
half
half
of
of
that
it.
is in teacher
Mhm.
salary,
Half the increase.
half the increase.
So 102,000 roughly is the
Yeah,
increase on
yeah,
teachers.
so, yeah,
We're paying teachers
118,
more. We're paying teachers more.
118.
Well, yeah, I mean, personally, the fact that teachers are getting paid more, I agree with my wife, we don't pay them enough. I think my question goes more towards how much of the increase in the budget is due to sunsetted ESSER funds?
I can have that number for you, but I'm just trying to.
Because what you're gonna hear from the floor, and as sure as I'm sitting here, somebody's gonna say it, is if you would use the ESSER funds for one-time unordinary expenses to keep that out of the budget in the future, it would have been a lot smarter than if it was used to buy in more staff.
Unfortunately, the purpose of the
Say.
funds was to address learning loss through things like reducing student to teacher ratios.
Right.
Right, so you couldn't use
So it
the
wasn't
funds
right.
to
We had
repair the
very
building.
strict parameters.
And
on
I do
using-
agree with you, that there are some people out there that are misinformed about the ESSER funds. They actually think we could have done capital improvement.
Which is why what Lindsay just said is important for Ree to be able to address.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, and
Um,
Lindsay, if she's there, can address it.
yeah.
It does,
Right.
that's why she's
Um,
recognized to speak.
Altogether, over 4 years, Nobleboro has had a total of $445,762.
Slower,
$445,762.
Yep.
$762.51, but that was spread out over 5 different grants in 4 years.
4 years, 5 grants.
Yes, that's Esser. So,
That's a coincidentally dangerous number.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I
Because that
agree.
400 and change
Sounds like the
an increase
subsidy.
in the budget.
And it's
Well, yeah.
not, it's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
right.
But that was over 4 years too, so about
Yes.
100 and something K every year.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
our increase is due to increase. I mean, really.
It is what it is.
Well, I mean, as we all hate it, go buy a car.
oh,
Right.
God,
Well, a lot of it
I
is
mean,
or build a
from,
house,
Fill your gas tank.
build a house.
Go to the grocery store.
Yeah,
All those
Grab,
costs
grab
that
your
we're
2
all
bags of
seeing out in the
groceries for a
real world,
$100
They
bill.
apply to.
they apply to this, yeah.
Right, and
and a lot of it is increases in secondary
I mean, the
education.
one thing I
increases
do know
in-
that hurt us, and I don't know how to get around it, and I think I may have mentioned it to people, the $20,000 that is in there for feeding the kids. Because we do not have enough students
Correct,
to cover
this
that
year we
expense.
are representing the actual cost more accurately
Right,
for food.
but there's 20,000 that, okay, well, it's supposed to be free. Everybody says it's free. Well, it's not free.
not.
Correct,
Because it costs us more to feed the children.
correct.
Also,
then-
the reimbursement you get is from taxes anyway, that you pay in. I mean, think about
Okay.
it. Where does any federal
Well,
money come from?
none of it's free money.
Right,
Right.
right.
Right. We can either pay more in taxes,
We haven't
Right.
harvested the money trees this year. Sorry.
but we don't have
Gotta get
enough.
that on
If we
there.
had more students, right? We would have been able to cover.
You would
more
have
of
higher
that.
reimbursements that would
Yeah.
cover
Are we
the
the
cost of 2
only-
staff members.
How many schools
dropped
didn't
below the-
get to cover that?
The threshold for free. and reduced.
The others are much closer to an equilibrium. Nobody makes,
What about
nobody's equal.
South Bristol must not have been.
Everybody, they have 1 staff member and they're part-time,
Okay.
4 hours a
And
day
what do we
or
have?
something. You have 2
2.
that are 7 hours a day.
Which we couldn't get rid of either one.
No.
I mean,
It
And
would
I,
be
I
very
tried to,
difficult to run the nutrition
one
program
person.
with one.
well, they'd probably end up getting done. 'cause
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
oversell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then how do we feed our kids?
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so you pay this extra fund to offset
And
that.
like, so Jefferson, do they have two?
They
or
have
three?
two people. They have the same
Right.
amount of staff.
Same
and the
amount, but double,
reimbursement-
not double, but
Yes.
they have 50 more kids than us, right?
A
Or,
lot more. They
yeah,
have
50.
100 more.
Oh, 100 more kids.
100 more total
On the
kids.
same
Yeah.
amount
So
of-
they get a lot more reimbursement because it's per meal served. The
What
reimbursement is
there's
per meal
bills up,
served.
Like if a certain percentage takes free and reduced lunch.
Free and reduced no longer exists.
Right, it doesn't, everybody.
Yeah.
So
Because it
this,
used to be where if
after
a
COVID,
certain percentage of your student body had to sign up
Everybody
for
got-
that, you got a
yes.
much bigger.
Right,
size.
Yes,
so
and that
after-
doesn't
after
exist
COVID,
anymore.
it changed
Okay.
that it went, everybody, no matter what,
To cost.
Yeah.
is free.
Yeah.
There is nobody
Oh, right,
pays anymore.
right. Well,
So,
But
well,
it's still
no,
based
but it-
on.
Right, it's
Right, it's
based
still
on the
based off
number of
that,
meals
but
served
yet
and the
they don't
average
take your
cost
money.
that they determine, the
Right.
formulas,
Yeah.
right? And so having two staff members costs you more than other places.
yeah.
but
I mean,
there's
you-
no way to get through it with
Right.
one.
Right,
No.
I don't know how you would, to
Not
be
if you wanna
honest.
retain that.
No, but I'm-
You won't have them
Right.
for long.
No,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
We couldn't, you
And I
know,
will
if she's
tell you,
sick,
the
like,
quality of the
right.
nutrition program at Nobleboro is phenomenal.
right.
She does a great job, Angela does, and her assistant, they do a great job, and the kids enjoy the meals. You know, it's not like turning up their nose at prison food, you know, they are,
Maybe,
it's a well-done
maybe
program.
a certain person should donate all the vegetables. I'm
We
not
do
gonna say, I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm not gonna say so.
We do try to source locally for as much as possible. It is recorded and streamed online.
Okay,
Or you can hire local workers.
Yes?
yep,
I think we do get a lot of them locally.
we do.
No,
No, no, this was just kind of a joke.
Okay,
Well, I know. but-
All right. Are we good with budget questions and plan of approach?
I think I got it.
And
The
Jen,
approach on the teacher negotiations is the same as it has been.
we are
that's
gonna discuss that later.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
That part of it, but are we still sticking with the 4.5% is in this budget?
Oh, yeah, this budget is set. We
It's
voted
that,
on
we
it.
can't change it.
Yep. Okay, so we are gonna
Thank
move
you
on.
for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
Last question.
Of course.
Am I clear that there's the deferred maintenance and capital improvements that have been discussed in the past are not in this
A
budget?
lot of them.
We took some out.
Yep,
An awful lot of them.
yep.
I just wanted to answer the question before I asked.
Yeah.
So,
And actually, some of it, we've been putting off for a few years now.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
every year we keep saying, no, we gotta cut it.
The building's the first thing to get.
It's always
Yeah,
the first thing to
And, but
go.
if you
Yeah.
speak to,
And yet it's the town's most valuable asset.
well, but if you speak to selectmen, that's the last thing they want cut.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It makes,
We're not
Unfortunately, it's one
meeting
of
in the
those
town
lines
office
that
tomorrow.
we actually have some control over, like completely. And so when we feel like we have to make a cut, we're like, okay, well, where can we cut it? And
teachers pay.
It comes
stuff like
there
that. It is
quickly.
what it is.
so, bathroom stalls were in
Tomorrow.
this current year's budget. No, last year's.
Right.
It was in there, but we ended up having to replace the steamer in the kitchen and
It
the
ran
electrical
over.
went way over. And so we couldn't do the bathroom stall. So that's back.
Right.
So, yeah.
Someone went over and asked me.
So the parking lot, there's only $5,000 in the budget as
We
going
actually.
to town
ripped
meeting
that
for
apart.
that parking lot,
We had planned on
35,000.
35,000 and we brought it down to
To five.
5 because out of our own personal time, we are gonna try to survey it ourselves, which will save the town ample money. which-
And Matt got the land donated.
And I got the acre donated
Yes.
by a lovely lady.
Yeah.
And I actually just spoke with her today and she's gonna draw up what I need for paperwork.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I-
So, yeah.
Okay,
It's
thank you for your hard work.
Thank you
for
guys.
coming.
Mostly a thankless job.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Have a good night. So we're gonna move on to policy. First reads, and I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Jen, thank you. And a second? Okay, thank you very
Bye,
much,
Josh.
Josh.
Good night, Josh.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tomorrow. That'll be great.
Second.
Second, Matt, thank you very much. All right, what have we got?
You have, these are, again, just required ones. These are pretty basic ones. Students are required to attend after a certain age, after they either reach the age of 5 or start attending school. So the seven, so that's in there. Student assessment, that you will participate in state required assessments, which you have to do in order to receive funding. That kind of stuff. Service animals in schools is sort of the most one, that people look at, and that's just saying that it's not talking about emotional support dogs. It's talking about actual service animals for, disabilities, and that you will, of course, follow laws to allow them in there as needed with verification. So, and dropout prevention is referring to secondary, not elementary. That's a committee across the district to, reach out and help people, or put strategies in place ahead of time before they drop out. And our adult ed director is instrumental in that because he's very involved.
Why is that one have an asterisk on it?
Because the list I copied and pasted from has asterisks.
Oh,
I
okay,
clearly
that's
misdeleting one.
I just wanted, is there additional notes we need to know about that one? No, okay, good.
No, I clearly misdeleting mine.
All right, any questions on the first read sets?
No.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, 4-0. Second read motion, please.
Make a
Three.
motion.
And this is IJJ, IJJ-E, IJNDB, IJNDB-R, and IKE. Do I have a second? Second, Jen? And I have notes.
Okay.
Shocking.
That's good because this is an option that needs
Yeah.
to be picked,
So
so.
on IJJ,
Yeah.
we have option 1, board
Option two.
delegation, or option 2, board approval. I am all in favor of board delegation.
I agree.
Agree. Okay. Do you have any?
No input.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think we go with board delegation. Wait a minute.
I can't believe Mike isn't here for this vote.
IJNDB. Student computer and internet use and internet safety.
Yes.
We have an or option in there,
You do.
which is or may be appealed to the superintendent.
Mhm.
And I personally think I would like to see the option of appeal rather than the building principal's decision being absolute final. I think that parents should have an option of appeal to somebody.
Mhm.
I was gonna say the same thing. I
Agree.
agree with that. Okay, and then we have another one under the internet safety part, which is students or students and parents. And there, I think it should just be students.
That's about
Personally.
educating them on internet safety,
Yep.
which it's hard to educate parents
Parents.
on things
Yep.
if they don't want to know.
Yeah.
Right. They're not required to come to school.
Right. Is everybody all right with that?
Mhm.
Yep.
All right. And then am I going too fast?
No, actually,
Okay.
you're not.
IJNDB-R. In D, we're just missing our name.
Yes. Yes. And I'll put that, there's actually 3 places, I
Yep.
believe, between the two,
Yep.
and I'll put that in.
And yeah, on number 4. Section H, number 4, it's school unit name. No, I'm sorry. 4 is insert appropriate school personnel. That's the third
I
one.
have
you're
been
talking about?
putting school office staff.
Okay.
So that it goes to an office and not a teacher who forgets, and because it's not their job normally.
Yep, that's great.
Can I ask one question?
Of course.
On one of these policies, I'm not sure which one it is, I apologize. I also agree full-heartedly about having appeal to the superintendent. We're talking about the internet use. But on the other one, it says that the finality would be with the principal, so we just need to change that.
In both places.
Make that match. Sure.
Thank you. And then where are we at? IKE. We have another or, we have assignment of a student to a grade level or decisions concerning promotion, retention, or acceleration of a student. And I would personally suggest going with the or. So
Me too.
going with decisions concerning promotion, retention, or acceleration of a student.
And that is common with a couple of our other districts as well.
Okay,
It just is a clearer statement.
Yep.
I think.
yep. And that's all I've got. Anybody else?
Thank you for reviewing those. How exciting.
That's like
Um,
almost a year.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion on second read approval? All in favor? 4-0. Okay. and now I need a motion to go into executive session for consideration and action to adjourn the public portion of the Nobleboro regular meeting and enter into executive session for the purpose of discussion and negotiations with personnel staff pursuant to one MSRA 405 60.
Could you say that again, please?
Sure, ready?
Motion.
And a second? Agree. Okay, all in favor? Okay,
And it is 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
So I'm going to, there is no action expected after this executive session, so there'll be no second part of the Zoom meeting for anybody watching online. That will just be ended at this point.
Okay, thank you very much.